Yo, what up? This is Trust the Prophets, podcast number 30. Gonna try something a little different today, but we'll catch up with all that later. We got a few things to cover. We got the focus of this today is the top 25. Way too early to predict Kentucky Derby contenders. The formula last minute cancellation. F you, dude, for bailing on us, but this is El Hombre. We have picks by Dynasty, Vinny Blonde with me, which is about the best we're going to do without having the full partnership in here. Vinny, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, Vinny's become a staple on this on this podcast with his knowledge, and we appreciate him coming on. So outside of the top 25, we've got a few things I wanted to cover real quick. Exacta Box contest. You've probably seen it on our social media platforms. Malibu Stakes Day. That's December 26th, the day after Christmas, at Santa Anita Park. Basically, you'll get a mythical three horse Exacta Box, a dollar, and you'll get the points value of whatever the payoff is. If, for example, if the Exacta Box pays off $9, you'll get 9 points. And then at the end of the 10 race, 12 race program, whatever it happens to be, the highest total wins. So it's a pretty simple format. We'll post details about rules and prizes later. The other thing I wanted to cover real quick was YouTube. That's basically the sleeper I was holding off on a bit talking about today's podcast is that for the first time we're going to try to put some kind of video YouTube accompaniment to the podcast, and you've probably seen a little bit of flirting with trying to promote a YouTube channel for the first time in the last week or so. And we've got, I think, 22 whole subscribers at this point. So with that, you could tell that we're in our infancy, but hey, got to start somewhere. We got a big following on Facebook and somewhat on Twitter as well. So YouTube hopefully follows suit. Other than that, Vinny, I got to ask your opinion on this. Actually, one more thing before I ask your opinion. This is podcast number 30. And as a tradition, we talk about famous number 30s of all time in the sports world outside of horse racing. Right now, I believe the most popular number 30 is probably Steph Curry. Going back historically, I'm going to go with such legends as Terrell Davis, former Broncos running back, system back, in my opinion, for about 5 or 6 years, though, had a span of as good as anybody ever for about 5 or 6 years, 100 injuries. And where I'm gonna fall short of calling him a Hall of Fame beast is that Mike Anderson, who was a fat slob, about 400-pound fullback, comes in there and rushes for about 18 bills right behind him, puts up basically the same numbers. And Olandis Gary came in after him too, cheapened his stats to me. Both of those guys come in after Terrell Davis's devastating injuries, and the team never missed a beat. Next, Bernard King, street legend for the Knicks. Nolan Ryan, my opinion, the greatest pitcher of all time. Absolute monster. He wore different jersey numbers. Number 30, I believe, was with the Angels. Before you comment and try to kill me on that fact, he did wear number 30 at one point. 34 with the Rangers. Do what you got to do with that. And finally, the great one, Ken Griffey Jr. wore the number 30. So that's the GOAT for baseball, in my opinion. Vinny, before we go any further, who's your number 30 greatest of all time?
Griffey's a really good one. When I played baseball when I was younger, Griffey was definitely one of my favorite players. But the way Curry's just changed basketball, I think he's just unreal. Guy's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer someday. Yeah, and he's completely changed the way the game's played.
He really has. That Warriors. It's unbelievable. I don't like that team, but even though my boy Draymond Green from Michigan State, a solid piece on that team, and it's hard to hate Steph and I'm not a fan. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I got no reason not to be a fan. Between him and Klay Thompson, a monster. Those guys are incredible. They're fun to watch. Actually, it was cute at first for me, and now I don't know.
They're tough to be. I mean, when their team is shooting, I mean, if they shoot 50% in a game, like some teams, like I mean, they're unbeatable. Like Curry can score 60 points on any given night with just shooting 30-foot threes, which is just disgusting.
And like you said, they really did change the way people attempt to play offense nowadays. It's kind of interesting to see because before that, I mean, teams won on more of a basic strategy triangle offense. If you're a Bulls Lakers fan, but this thing changed everything. So
yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to before we jump to our top 25 Kentucky Derby contenders. One last piece. This is shocking, by the way. Just shocking news in the horse racing world. Giant white-haired Hitler, Bob Baffert, fined $2,500 for Dextro? Was that what it was at Del Mar? The horse Merneath. Vinny, you probably have more expertise on this than I do, but I'm going to tell you right now, $2,500. And this is the 1,000th time that we've heard at least inklings of cheating and drugs in his stable. Unbelievable. $2,500 is probably about like 2,500 pennies to any of us. And pretty disgusting. What's your thoughts on Baffert being fined? Where do you think this changes anything? Go ahead.
No, it doesn't change anything. These guys just get slaps on the wrist. That fines from, I want to say, her July race that she finished fourth in or something like that. And then, I mean, she came back. She won on the Breeders' Cup Saturday undercard. Like that means the $2,500 is a joke. I'm not familiar with the drug that she tested positive with, though, so I'm not sure what kind of drug it was. But it's like, like every once in a blue moon, if one of these trainers test positive, like horses test positive or something, okay, like we're like, all right, like crap happens, especially when like horses are running on like Lasix and other substances. Like, okay, but like when your name's consistently in the horse racing media for your horses being juiced or just on stuff they shouldn't be, like Baffert's has been this year, countless fails this year he's had, and it's just like at what point? And then like $2,500, like I get it, but it's a joke. It's a joke. I don't even know why they put that out there.
It's an insult to anybody who's.
But meanwhile, the Canterbury Park suspended Diodoro for 60 days. Like that's a real penalty because one of his horses tested positive for I forget what drug it was. The one that starts with the L, like Lycamine or whatever that is.
Well, 60 days is a much bigger penalty than 2,500.
Right, exactly. And like I feel like that's the only, like, if you're not gonna, like, the penalties have to get steeper in the sport, in my opinion, or it's never gonna change. You just, you suspend guys for a month or two. Maybe they learn, because they'll lose a lot of money if you suspend them that long. $2,500 to them, like you said, like they can just reach in their pocket. Like that's pocket change to somebody like Baffert.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk with Brad Cox too, and I'm not going to speculate because who am I to speculate? But those two, if you've got one of them nailed to the cross with guilt, which Baffert has been 20 times this year alone, why not make this guy? That guy is the face of horse racing to like a fringe fan, really. Like I know I got brother-in-laws and cousins and friends from high school and college that are all fringe fans, and they all worship Baffert. I mean, so what better person? It's kind of like Barry Bonds. What better person to bust and break this thing down than the biggest name in the business? Why not? Why not now? Why not now? Like Barry Bonds and McGuire, when they were finally busted, everybody said, "Okay, you're right. This has been going on too long. Let's stop it." they were the face of it, unfortunately, but it did change the game. And maybe there's still backdoor ways of doing roids in baseball, but it's not as open as it was anyway. And Baffert would be the guy to take it down and change the game if they were going to change it.
It would, but it's also as much as I want to see it happen, I think it would really. The sport has and people say racing is dead, but the sport has definitely gained since 2015. Has gained more mainstream popularity with because of American Pharaoh and Justify winning the Triple Crown. And that's why Baffert's become this household name because, he was always he's been a big trainer in the sport for years, but then you get the 2 Triple Crown winners and all of a sudden, you gets a few Breeders' Cup Classic wins. And all of a sudden, like you said, the casual fan, he's a household name. If they took him down now, not I'm not saying they should never, but if they took him down now, I think it would really hurt the sport. It's not like they busted. It's not like they busted. It's not like Bonds hit number 73 and they were like, "Yay, Barry! Like you're doing something." It was like, "Okay, Barry, like we're gonna let you have another couple of years, and then
we're gonna let Rafael Palmeiro flail in the freaking
right." Right. I mean,
biggest court in the world, and he like an idiot. But
some of the stuff might not be him. So I don't want to say it's definitely him doing it.
And who am I? I'm just another idiot, right?
Yeah. And I
100% agree. That's a great point about Justify and American Pharaoh. I remember being a little more than a casual fan, but not as into it as I have been the last 5 years. But damn, that really did. There was a big resurgence of interest and a lot of fringe fans when American Pharaoh did it. And just like when it was Mark McGuire, and it was Barry Bonds and Palmeiro and
Sosa.
Yep, the Sosa and Bonds thing, a huge resurgence in Major League Baseball interest because people like to see freak show Amazons getting the plate, knock it 5,000 feet out of the yard.
People
just like everybody busted a nut over DeChambeau and PJ because he could drive 500 yards.
And people like seeing offense. Yeah, it's the same reason in football that now the defenders can't touch anybody. People pay to see a game that's 38-35. People don't pay to see games that are 3-0 anymore. That's not what they want to watch. And it's that was the same thing in baseball and in horse racing. Here's a sport that it's very hard. It's kind of in my opinion, it's kind of like the same trouble UFC sometimes runs in. The casual fan,
human cockfighting, by the way,
right? The casual fan gravitates to the superstar horses, and in America, especially in North America, you lose one race and all of a sudden you're written off. So here you have Baffert, who's trained Justify, an undefeated Triple Crown winner, American Pharaoh, who had one of the greatest 3-year-old seasons of all time. Oh, you take away that the second in the Travers and
all-time greats, both of them.
Yeah, the 3-year-old resume is amazing, and those are horses that people gravitate toward. Even Authentic this year, he had a hiccup in the Santa Anita Derby, and besides that, he's been flawless. So and that's what the casual fan gravitates towards. But when you have a sport that has so many unknowns like this, it happened with UFC with Ronda Rousey. They pushed Ronda Rousey so hard and they kept feeding her joke fights. She finally fights somebody who knows how to fight and she gets her ass kicked. And, it's oh, well, that sucks. And not saying that the horses, they purposely make sure horses aren't running against them or in softer spots. But, who's to say behind the curtain? It's hey, if this horse wins, it's going to bring in a ton of revenue. We're going to let don't drug test this horse today. Or, hey, here's something here's another horse's test that we're going to say is this horse. You'll never know. The rumor online people still don't understand how Authentic got 1.25 miles in the Derby and the Breeders' Cup after he clung to the wire in the Haskell at 1.125 miles. But we'll never know if that horse was tested positive.
I'm just gonna say that he did because it's more fun, and I like to assume that Baffert's an asshole because his life's too perfect.
The sport will never let those things get out. It was kind of like when that Justify news leaked after the Triple Crown, that got hushed under the rug like immediately. Like that was news for like 2 days, and then like you never heard.
That's an angle I hadn't looked at it from, and you're absolutely right. Like if you took, especially American Pharoah was more of an impact for me because I've lived long enough to go 30 years without a Triple Crown winner. So that was like huge. That was huge for me, somebody who was a fringe fan most of my life, and in the last 10 years I've taken it very seriously. But American Pharoah, dude, like that was a game changer. It was like, this guy's finally going to do it. And if you stripped him from that right then, that does more damage than it did good, even if they were, juice monsters.
Right.
Just like Bonds and Sosa.
Right. It's just like one of those things. Like it's like, and like in a sport, like I feel like in a sport like a sport like baseball and football, where like they've been really cracking down on the PEDs, you're always going to have more superstars in those sports. In horse racing, with so many unknowns, it is very tough for these horses to be legit. I mean, honestly, like I consider Gunrunner a superstar, but if you look at his resume, I mean, he's got more like same with California Chrome. They both have a ton of losses on their resume. You don't see that anymore from horses. You get these horses that only run 10 or 12 times now, and if they don't have 10 or 11 wins out of those 12 starts, like they're not considered great. And it's like that's the issue now. Is I feel like it's the way that U.S. racing is now. It's just like if you don't win every race, you're not a good horse. Like a horse I really like is like Tacitus. He ran 4th in the Classic. You look at his resume, he's never finished worse than, I think he finished 5th in the Saudi Cup. The horse has got multiple millions of dollars in purse money because he runs second and third in a lot of big races. And people think he's a joke because he doesn't win. And it's like this horse comes in second and third in some of the biggest races in the world consistently over the last year and a half. And people say he sucks because he doesn't find the winner's circle.
They just want to pick on you.
Right. They definitely do. But it's like, but like those are the type of horses that like in 10 years, nobody's going to unless he becomes a superstar stallion, nobody's going to remember Tacitus.
You're right.
But we're still going to be talking about Authentic in 10 years because of the way he won the Derby and then the Classic as a 3-year-old.
Pretty impressive season 2020 in the weirdest year in history, which is hard to compare to anything else ever, for example. I mean, it's bizarre. But with that said, yeah, I think we all have our opinions on the good of people like Baffert and Brad Cox and Service and everybody else from last year's celebrity, prisoners. But with all that said, I think, to be honest with you, you shed a little light. I hadn't approached it from but how much damage would it have done? Because I'm just so pissed when I hear the things that I hear, about some of these great ones, including Justify is the biggest one. Like I try to block that out because I know how much good that horse did for the fringe fans and for the ESPN Sports Center people who hear about horse racing like 3 times a year. Justify was a big deal. It's a big deal to a sport that needs a big deal.
Right. And like, if I remember correctly, that whole thing was he failed one of his drug tests that he came back after the Santa Anita Derby, he failed, which means he wouldn't have, if they took that win away from him, he loses the points to even be in the Kentucky Derby. And all of a sudden you have to take away the Derby win. And, then you don't have a Triple Crown winner. And that's why that got hushed under the rug. If he hadn't won the Triple Crown, I bet we would have heard more about it. But because he won the Triple Crown, you never heard another peep about it. And that, unfortunately, that's how the sport's working right now. And it really kind of is like the way that the steroid era in baseball was, where it's more about getting more people involved and getting more viewership than it really is cleaning up the sport right now. And maybe eventually it gets cleaned up, but I mean, it's bad everywhere. It's not just the top guys. It's, it goes all the way down to the smaller tracks. I mean, you look at some of these smaller tracks, you have trainers winning at 40 and 50%. And it's like that, you're telling me that they're that good. They're that good of trainers, but they stay in their lane.
Yep. and probably wisely, because at some point the sword's going to drop and heads are going to roll. But you're right. It's got to be a timely and unfortunately an economic decision, because if it hurts more than it helps, then it sets the whole game back. And it's a game that's, I mean, I get jokes all the time when people hear about how involved I am with horse racing, that even still exists. And it's like, and I know you don't get that type of stuff because you're in New York. Well, I'm in a state where horse racing is nothing. So big difference, but that's the truth. I mean, there's people out there who really have no clue that horse racing even exists outside of course, Kentucky Derby and maybe the other two Triple Crown races if there's a Triple Crown contender. But otherwise, nobody really gives a shit about horse racing.
Yep.
I mean, other than our window of 10,000 hardcore Twitter idiots, and then there you got a bunch of cappers and people who genuinely love it. It's a small crowd, so
yeah,
we got to stick together, brother. So anyway, let's get to the point before it becomes midnight. The way too early top 25 2021 Kentucky Derby contenders list. And before anybody jumps to any conclusions or thinks they're the smartest effer in the room, we understand that about 2/3 of these horses are probably not even going to be in the conversation come, March. But that's the fun of it to me, and that's the fun of it to a lot of people. We can all gamble and find some diamond in the rough that nobody's looking at and say, hey, I had him in frickin' November. All right, so what I'm going to do is Vinny has prepared a top 25 list. The formula who is supposed to be here, but again, marked out. He's got no clout in my book anymore. He's dead to me. Actually, no, not at all. But I have his list here in front of me. I got Vinny's going to talk to us about his list, and I have my own personal list. We're gonna do some comparisons, but we're gonna run through it quick because we don't want to be here for a 4-hour freaking broadcast. So we're just gonna go. I'm gonna go from 25. We're gonna start at the bottom. I'm gonna give you the formulas number 25 pick, and then we'll go Vinny, and then I'll do my own, and we'll just run like that. And if you want to throw in a note or two about each one, we'll go ahead. So, you got anything before we get started?
No.
Vincenzo.
I feel like we'll throw in notes about the ones higher up on the list. The ones lower on the list are, at least for me, are probably stretches.
Maybe you reach for a note if one of us has something that's like 20 spots different from yours and vice versa. All right, so this is the formula poll. Number 25 ranked horse, Midnight Bourbon. A Tisnow joint. Asmussen, Jose Ortiz is slated to be the jockey on that one. Who do you have for 25?
I have 10 for 10. Shug McGahee trained horse, sired by Frosted. Recently ran second in the Grade 3 Nashua at Aqueduct.
There you go. Shug Knight's brother, Shug McGahee. For 25, I have Speaker's Corner, which is a Street Sense horse. Billy Mott and Junior Alvarado's scheduled to be the jockey on that. Again, all this will change over time, but 25 is Speaker's Corner for me.
You have him at 25.
Yeah,
he's in my top 10.
Okay, great. This is why we're here, baby.
He's pretty high on my list.
You want to hear a fun joke? I don't think the formula has him in the top 25.
Oh man,
this is why we're here, and we're all going to laugh at each other all season long. This is great. Okay, moving to 24 now. The formula poll has Huntsinger, which is a Cinco Charlie horse. D. Pish, Lane Luzzy, jockey. I don't know much about this horse, to be honest with you, but that's Huntsinger, I believe is how you pronounce it, the 24 hole.
Okay.
Vinny, go ahead.
I might be a little biased on this one because of the name, but my 24 is Laker Mamba. Oh, it's a Nyquist sired horse. He's only run 2 races, but his most recent he broke his maiden at Churchill going mile and a 16th. He's trained by Mark Cassie. So he's one I'm going to keep an eye on.
My number 24, also maybe a little bit of bias going on here because of my boy David Cohen, the jockey, Diodoro, trained Dreamer's Disease, who was a Breeders' Cup. What did he run? He ran on the Friday Juvenile Sprint, I believe.
He ran in the he ran in the juvenile. Yeah, he ran in the juvenile. Yeah, he set the pace
and held the pace well for a while.
Yeah, deep stretchy. That pace fell apart. He set a very fast pace and just he ran.
But he showed he could hold the pace in a world class event.
He got the favorite beat.
I got him down to 24, obviously with some room, but my boy Cohen, I got faith in him. We'll see what they can do. That team has gotten stronger and stronger in the last year or so. So good luck to them. 23. 23 for the formula. We have Team Merchants, which is another Nyquist joint. Let's see. O'Neill is the trainer. Kendi Carmouche, the jockey, slated to play in the 23. Team Merchants. Vincenzo, where do you go on 23?
I have a different Doug O'Neill horse, actually. I have Sonic Breeze. McLean's sired by McLean's Music. I'm not great on that sire, but we'll see. He came in third in the grade 2 best Powell last time out, which is a sprint. But I like the pedigree enough that I threw him on there.
All right. 23 for me. I have Wicked Strong's offspring, Brooklyn Strong, who I think I've seen a lot of love on him being way higher than this, but I don't see any proof to go big on him. Velazquez trained and Jose Ortiz slated to be the jockey. Moving along, let's keep this thing rolling. Number 22, the formula has a frosted sired horse, restored order. That's Todd Pletcher, Irad Ortiz Jr., slated to be the jockey on that 22 ranked restored order. Vinny, go.
I have Get Her Number for Peter Miller. Won the grade 1 American Pharoah last time out at Santa Anita.
All right. And I have a little bit of a shot here. Warfront sired Battleground, which was a Breeders' Cup turf horse. I have no idea if this horse is going to be even attempted to run in America at this point, but finished second in the Breeders' Cup turf. Aiden O'Brien, Rai Moore. I like it. But again, this thing could be off the list as quick as it was put on it because we don't even know if he's going to run in it toward it.
I have him very high. He's in my top 5.
Nice. Spoiler alert.
He's in my top 5.
Okay, good. All right, moving to 21, we have a Tapazar joint, quick tempo. Let's see, Jose Ortiz on that mount, possibly 21. Davis is the trainer. Don't know much about this horse. Anything, Vinny, with that? I don't know anything about this. Formula deserves to get his picks non-justified because he's not here. So, Vinny, what do you have for 21?
I have Twilight Blue, sired by Air Force Blue, ran second in the Kentucky Jockey Cup grade 2 this past weekend for Joe Sharp. I think this one's probably going to end up on the turf, but hey, horse is bred to get distance, so I'll keep it on the list until they make that switch to turf.
Joey Sharp. All right, 21 for myself. I have Pickin' Time. And again, this is another one that's way up on a lot of people's list. I don't see it. Stay Thirsty is the sire. Breen, the trainer. McCarthy, the jockey at this point. Who knows? Let's keep the chatter to a minimum here because this is going to take forever if we don't. Now to formula number 20. He has Pickin' Time. Same horse as me at 21. Stay Thirsty. Breen, McCarthy joint. I don't know. I think that horse is. I've seen it as high as a top 5 horse in a lot of lists. Not going that far. Neither is the formula. Vinny, who do you have at 20?
I have King Fury for Ken McPeak. Curlin sire ran 5th in the Kentucky Jockey Cup this past weekend. Curlin baby. So I'm expecting this one to just keep slowly improve. So that's why I have him higher than the second place finisher there.
Yeah, Curlin's a late blooming specimen and great specimen indeed. But you're right about that. It's hard to tell this early. That's the fun of it. Again, we're 6 months ahead of time here, so we fully expected at least half of this list is a joke.
Oh yeah.
Number 20, I have Olympiad by Speightstown. Billy Mott, Junior Alvarado again on that one. That's my 20th choice. We'll move into the top 20 now, top 19, whatever you want to do. The formula has Hot Rod Charlie, which again, this is a top 10 consensus for most. Oxbow, O'Neill, and Tyler Gaffleone set to be the team on this. Hot Rod Charlie, much higher in most people's realm, but that's the formula has him stuck in the 19th hole right now. Vinny, go ahead. 19.
I don't have Hot Rod Charlie anywhere on my list. I have Swill at number 19. Not huge on the pedigree because it's Scream Sprinter, but the Munnings and then yeah. But it was fourth in the Kentucky Jockey Club last weekend. But trained by Brad Cox, and I've heard multiple people say that the connections are very, very high on this one. So, and he hasn't run bad. So, here's number 19.
All right, and a side note, Flypaper swills booze like a freaking a legendary alcoholic. So we'll get. He was supposed to. By the way, Fly P, he'll be back. He'll be back for more. He's got a lot of fans. It's been a while since he's been on the podcast, but we'll get him back out soon enough. 19 for myself. I have another Munnings sired horse, Jack Traveler. That's Asmussen, Rosado. The 19 hole again. That's another one I've seen a lot higher, but we'll see how it shakes down. We're gonna go to 18 now. 18, the formula has Mutasabek, which is an Into Mischief joint. We saw him in the Breeders' Cup.
Juvenile turf.
Yep. Was supposed to. I think he went off as the morning line favorite, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was the morning line. He was either morning line favorite or second choice or something like that.
But that was a very, very balanced and competitive race. But Todd Pletcher, Saez, that's number 18 for the formula. Solid pick. At one point, probably one of the best American horses in the Breeders' Cup turf. So the best, but I think 18 is about right for him, and you'll see why in a second. Vinny, 18.
I have Pick and Time. So you guys already touched on Pick and Time.
We have him rated at 18 for Vinny, 20 for the formula, 21 for myself. So we all have some respect for this horse.
Yeah, if he keeps winning, I think he'll move up. But I do like his pedigree though for stretching out. So he's one I'm curious to see how he does. I'm never huge on these horses that start at Aqueduct though. So
he's racist against Aqueduct because he's a Saratoga homie.
Yeah, he is. But
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. All right. For myself, number 18, I also have Mutasabek. The formula and I did not consult whatsoever in this list intentionally, nor did we consult with Vinny because we wanted to make fun of each other as much as possible. But we both had Mutasabek at 18. For obvious reasons, it's good. Solid horse. Probably will be in the conversation for a little while, and we'll have to see what happens in the spring. For 17, we get up into a dialed-in horse, Get Her Number. Vinny, you had Get Her Number already. Peter Miller.
Yep, I had him at 22.
Flavian Pratt joint. The formula ranks Get Her Number at 17. I feel like that's a pretty solid position for Get Her Number. Who do you have at 17?
I have a horse named Caddo River for Brad Cox. It's a hard spun sired horse. 3 races. One broke his maiden last time out at Churchill at a mile. So I think Cox is going to have a lot of these horses on the Derby Trail this year, so it's going to be a common theme with my list is just these random Brad Cox horses.
A lot of juiced up shite. But I get it, man. Cox is unbelievable right now. He's on fire. He's the guy right now, whether it's juice or not. But for 17, I also again did not talk to the formula. I also had Get Her Number, the dialed in Peter Miller, Flavian Pratt joint. We got all three of us again within a five a ranking of 17 through I believe you had 22 on that horse.
Yeah.
We all have the same feelings about that horse. So Get Her Number is at 17. Moving up to 16, the formula actually has Scarlet Sky by Sky Mesa, Sugar McGahee, Johnny Velazquez slated to be the jock. The 16 Scarlet Sky. Vinny, who do you have at 16?
I have Arabian Prince, sired by Mishawish. He was just third in the Kentucky Jockey Club, but he's another horse I think who's bred to get distance. He might go to the turf though with his pedigree, but he surprised me on how good he was actually lower on my. He was actually towards the back end of my top 30, and then he impressed me over the weekend running third. So I moved him up a little bit.
Yeah, I think he just missed my list by probably one or two outside of my top 25. So I agree. For 16 for myself, I have Midnight Bourbon, which was the 25th choice for the formula. Tis Now, Asmussen, Jose. I saw that horse. That horse is wildly different from list to list. He kind of landed in the middle for me. We'll see. That's another one that we'll look back and either laugh at one way or the other. Number 15 now, the formula, Dr. Scheibel from Violence, Glatt and Flavian Pratt. Spoiler alert, I have this horse higher than him. But definitely, in my opinion, a top 15 horse going forward. Vinny, who's your number 15?
I have Classier, Bob Baffert trainee, who off the maiden win, they tried the juvenile. He ran 8th in the juvenile, but he's been working really well. The pedigree is there. So I think the connections are very high on him. So I'm going to give him a pass for that juvenile and see where Bob decides to wield this one back.
Classier was a strong choice. Another one that I swear, if I could show you my 26 through 30, definitely on there. Didn't make my top 25, but understandably on yours. 15 for me is the hard spun joint Caddo River that you mentioned just a few minutes ago. Again, Brad Cox on fire. Hopefully he doesn't go to prison in the next 6 months because this is a good horse, great horse. I think Caddo River. In my opinion, he could be in the top 5 when this is all said and done, if not higher. Giroux slated to be the jockey. Caddo River, common theme here. So number 14 we're up to 14 now. The formula has Jackson Traveler by Munnings, Steve Asmussen. I had him at 19. So obviously we agree on some level. The formula has him at 14. Who do you have at 14, Vinny?
I have Known Agenda, Todd Pletcher trainee, sired Curlin sired. Broke his maiden at 1 mile and an eighth at Aqueduct, which is it's a rare distance for 2-year-olds to run. So I like that he's already been able to get the distance. No idea if he'll ever be good enough, but that last race was impressive enough that I threw him in the top 15.
Yeah, well, for the record, it is November 30th of 2020, and we are 6 months away from the
yeah. So, maybe a Belmont horse.
So when we play clips back about how bad or good our picks were, we'll remember that it's 6 months in advance. For 14, I have Vittorio by Ghost Zapper. Callahan trained, and Mike Smith scheduled to be on the mount. Obviously, like many of these, we don't know a ton about them yet, but what I did see was was strong. I'm a big Go Sapper fan. I know that's a mixed reviews on his offspring, but we'll see how it goes. I'm throwing him up probably a little higher than most people, and
I have him higher.
okay, good. Well,
No, I have
I'm not as crazy as I'm giving myself credit for.
No, I have a little higher.
All right, good to hear. I love that there's differences because again, you're saying higher. The formula doesn't have him on his top 25.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. So we'll go to 13. 13, the formula. Brooklyn Strong. I mentioned him earlier. I had him at 23. He's at 13 on the formulas list. That's wicked strong. Velazquez, Jose Ortiz. Vinny, who do you have at 13?
I have Savile Row. It's a quality road sired horse for Bob Baffert. Only one for one broke his maiden. That's 6 furlongs at Del Mar. How
long ago? Today. I'm joking.
No, it wasn't too long ago though. But he's I got to imagine one of those. I like to see the 2-year-olds. I like him see him at least run it too. So I'm expecting Baffert to have this one somewhere on the Derby Trail next year.
And at 13 for myself, I'm going with Golden Powell, who was obviously brilliant in the Breeders' Cup. Uncle Mo's offspring. We got Billy Ward, Irad Ortiz set up. I think I just liked Golden Powell before the Breeders' Cup, before I read anything, and then he went out there and did what he was supposed to do.
He's one I doubt they ever try on dirt.
I know that's the thing about this. That's the beauty
Yeah.
of it. There's about 4 on my list who may never run dirt. But you gotta think that they might. So
right.
I don't want to miss that lottery ticket on the way up. So 12, we're gonna move. 12, we have the formula Whiskey Double into Mischief Offspring as Mission Ricky Santana Jr. Didn't even make my list. Maybe I'm crazy. Vinny, who do you have at 12?
I have Ethical Judgment, honor code sired horse for Brandon Walsh. 2 races, got a win in a second. So Brandon Walsh always seems to have one really good horse on the Derby Trail these last few years. Unfortunately, this year was Maxwell who was hurt, but
yeah, Maxfield.
Maxfield, yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah. So I mean, he gets good horses. So if this one can stay healthy with the pedigree, I like him.
All right, number 12, myself. I have Reinvestment Risk, who slightly disappointing in the Breeders' Cup by Chad Brown. I read Upstart Sire. From the numbers, I see more possibility than reality. But again, it's frickin' November. Move it up to 11 for the formula. He has Olympiad, which I had at number 20. So that's a Speightstown Billy Mott joint. Olympiad has made the list for 2 of us. Vinny, how about number 11?
I have Founder for Chad Brown. Ran 3rd over the weekend in an allowance race at 7 furlongs at Churchill. He's another upstart sire. He's just green right now. He's all 3 of his races so far. He's just looked so green. But he seems like one who has a world of talent that if he ever puts the pieces together, he could be very, very good. So I'm gonna ride him until he shows me he can't put it together.
Okay, number 11, I have Scarlet Sky again by Sky Mesa. Scarlet Sky was number 16 on the formulas list. We'll see where he falls. Now we move into the top 10. This is where we at least hope that many of our top 10s stick for a while in this list, or else we'll look like jackasses. But I guarantee you, between mine and I have the formulas in front of me, we have at least half of these that don't match at all, and I'm assuming Vinny is going to have another half that don't match ours, well, which makes this great. So number 10 for the formula has Caddo River, which actually did match up to 2 of ours. Hard Spun Sired, Brad Cox, Flory Giroux at number 10, Caddo River. I think we all have them in here. So I think that's a legit threat to be talked
Yeah.
about all the way to May. So, Vinny, who do you have at 10?
I have
No pressure.
I have reinvestment risk. You had him at 11. The Breeders' Cup was disappointing. I like I do like the pedigree though. His pedigree is really good. Chad he usually doesn't have great dirt horses, but this one has shown talent. Obviously, the way that Breeders' Cup Juveniles was run, I'm giving a lot of horses passes on it, and I'm hoping it comes back stronger than last year's Juvenile.
Yeah. What and to run it back, didn't Storm the Court won. The top 5 didn't do anything.
He was arguably though, like look at he won at Storm the Court won at what, like 30 or 40 to 1, and you look back at it, and he was the best horse that came from the race, which is
unbelievable,
right? Which is just baffling. And he ran like what, 5th or 6th in the Derby this year. I mean, he made it.
Yeah,
he made it, and he ran. He ran okay
in a lot of major races this year. He
yeah.
He wasn't going to win effing anything though.
No, but yeah, I'm hoping the Juvenile this year is a little bit stronger than last year's.
It kind of has to be.
I hope so.
All right, for number 10, I have Prisoner by Violence. I have that's a Todd Pletcher Irad joint. On paper, and again, I didn't see anybody rate him higher than 10th. And we'll go back and run through the numbers because we're gonna keep this list moving every at least couple weeks and talk about who's moving up and down the charts, especially once the prep races start going. But I have Prisoner at 10. Moving along, number 9. The formula has another Violence offspring here, Freedom Fighter. That's a Bobby Baffert, Drayden Van Dyke teamed up joint. Freedom Fighter at 9. Didn't even make my list. Did make my list of honorable mentions that, at some point you got to cut off the top 25. But I completely understand why he's here. But the formula has him at 9. Who's your number 9, Vinny?
I have Likeable for Todd Pletcher. Ran 13th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but was on that very, very hot pace that just completely collapsed. But Frosted seems to have a few on here for
sure.
Yeah, which is good to see. So, but he's Frosted was out of Tappet, so Tappets are always known to be a little hot-headed. So I think I'm hoping this one can calm down a bit, but we will see. I think that one's probably one of my biggest stretches that I took here.
Yeah, number 9 for me, I have Fire at Will by Declaration of War. Mike Maker, Ricky Santana Jr. Just for me, no reason to at least not be this high. Probably should have been higher for me, but you gotta, like you said, you gotta take some reaches here. Moving on to the formula, number 8, he has Prisoner by Violence. I had Prisoner at 10. He has him at 8. Interesting, because I thought I was reaching at 10, and the formula answers even higher. The Pletcher Ortiz joint. Again, we'll delve into each of these horses a little further with the new list as they change. Vinny, number 8, go.
I have Olympiad, Bill Mott, Speightstown sired. Been very impressed with this one, 2 races. So
Olympiad is now, I think, the 3rd or 4th that has been on all 3 of our lists. So it's good. It's good when you hear agreement upon 3 people who did not consult at all. So Vinny has them higher than either of us, but we both respected the horse enough to put him into the list. So that was number 8. Number 8 for myself, I have Jackie's Warrior by McLean's Music. Asmussen. Obviously, we all saw what he did in the Breeders' Cup. I think, what's the question? What's the question on everybody's mind about Jackie's Warrior?
2 turns.
Yeah. So that's why number 8 kind of fits. Obviously, the talent level could be higher, but yeah, it's a two turn is a game changer for most. We're gonna move to number 7, red flag. The formula calls out red flag. So sheriffs trained. I don't. I won't go any further with that one just yet because I want to hear some more takes on it. Vinny, number 7 for you.
I don't have red flag on my list, but I had red flag last time out at 10-1. I really I thought that horse fit that spot perfectly. I have Viterio, the Ghost Zapper sired horse for Simon Callahan. I'm hoping they're gearing this one up for a mid February ish type of start. The horse hasn't worked in 60 days, so that's kind of concerning to me, but we'll see.
So red flag didn't make the program for Vincenzo. That's interesting. Spoiler alert: he's on mine. We haven't heard his name yet. 7 for me is Dr. Scheibel by Violence. The numbers do the talking for me, and I know everybody looks at numbers a little different, but for me, that horse is at least number 7, probably a little better than that. I was a little conscientious about where I put him because I feel like I was putting him higher than most people did. So even though we shouldn't admit to letting other people influence us, but it is November again. So we're gonna move to 6. 6 on the formulas chart is highly motivated by Into Mischief, Asmussen again, Rosario again. I don't know. I mean, 6 seems awful low for this piece. For me, Vinny may have a different spin on this altogether. Who do you have at 6, Vinny?
I have Speaker's Corner. Nice Speaker's Corner for Bill Mott. I love the pedigree on this one. Very impressive win at Belmont last break is maiden. So I think this one will be one of the, at least early on, at least one of the top horses on the New York circuit, I hope.
Yeah, I loved that too. I had him at 25, but I see some room for growth there. Number 6 for myself, I had Hot Rod Charlie by Oxbow. For obvious reasons. The results speak for themselves on him. Gaffleone. I just feel like this. I don't think that the horse will sustain tops. I have him at 6. I don't think he'll be 6th in the long run, but right now he seemed like, at least to be discussed in the top 10. So I threw him in there. I saw him as high as 2 on a couple other lists, and I don't think he's that great, but anyway, top 5. Here we go. This is where you start to look like a jackass if you're wrong. Later on the road, the formula has Jackie's Warrior at 5. There's questions on the distance. There's questions on the 2 turns. Vinny, I know you already mentioned didn't even make your list. I think we're talking about maybe a couple different approaches here, but anyway, top 5. Who's your number 5? Go ahead.
I have Keep Me in Mind for Diodoro with our boy David Cohen riding. The time didn't come back great for that Kentucky Jockey Club, but horse clearly wants to just go distance. So I don't know what he's gonna win, but I'm here for it until he shows he can't compete with the top horses.
And ironically, that's my number 5 as well. Keep Me in Mind, and that was set into stone prior to this past weekend's performance. Like you mentioned, Cohen, a friend of the family here, Trust the Prophets fam. He's got a lot of confidence in that horse, Diodoro. I think that whole connection has really moved up in terms of talent and ability to go after one of these big races. And I think that this horse, Keep Me in Mind, is, like you said, I think it's got a shot, and I don't know. I love the feel of everything about it. And David had a lot of confidence in it, talking to him a few times about this horse. And keep me in mind is my number 5. And spoiler alert, the formula had nothing to do with that horse as his top 5 or top 25.
Oh man,
So we're going to beat him up on that one. I hope that for that reason, I hope that the thing goes on, wins the Kentucky Derby.
that'd be great.
So let's move on. Number 4, the formula has Golden Powell by Uncle Mo. Golden Powell I had at 13. Vinny, who do you have at 4?
I have Battleground for Aiden O'Brien.
You think he's going to run
I,
for it?
he with the European prep schedule, he's going to run in races there, and then they might take a shot at the UAE Derby with him, like he did Mendelssohn.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an outside shot that he does come. Because really the journey there for the turf is really to the Derby is really you just got to get that UAE Derby, and even a second in that UAE Derby pretty much guarantees you in.
That's
Don't know.
why he made my list too.
Yeah, don't know if the horse is like royally bred though. So honestly, I would be shocked if they ever really stuck with dirt. Or every even tried dirt with him. Because the horse is just royally bred. But I think he could run. I definitely think he's going to win some stakes races over there this year. So,
well, that's interesting. We both have him ranked pretty high. Again, the formula off of us. So, number 4 for me is Red Flag, which you're off of. The formula had ranked number 7. I have it number 4. So clearly some disparity on how we feel about that horse. All we can do is wait and see how that shakes down. We move into the top 3. The formula at number 3 has Fire at Will by Declaration of War. Myself, again, I had him at 9. Vinny, I don't think I've heard that name yet.
No, he's not making. He almost made my top 30. I don't think he's gonna. Some of these horses I left off that clearly have talent, like Fire at Will and like Golden Powell, who I don't think there's even a shot they're gonna try dirt. I didn't even include him. So not saying he's not a good horse because I think he is, but I don't think there's a shot they try dirt with him.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out who's going to make the field at this point in this year or November. So, good call. I agree. Not necessarily going to be there. Number 3, I have Highly Motivated, which the formula had ranked 7. Did you have Highly Motivated spoken of yet? He has not spoken of yet.
He's not on mine. My number 3 is Life is Good for Bob Baffert.
I knew that name was coming
Yeah,
from you. I hoped.
He I can't believe how much money he took in Derby Pool 1. And he's 4-1. And he's the top actual horse choice at like 4-1 to 5-1 or 5-1 he closed that, which is nuts off a maiden win, but a horse just looked like a monster first time out.
Well, spoiler alert, Life is Good has made the top 3 in all 3 of our lists, which I'm going to bet money is, well, I won't bet money on it, but we'll see if anybody else makes that esteemed company here, because I had Highly Motivated at 3. The formula had him at 7. You didn't. So now to move on to number 2, Essential Quality is the formula's number 2 choice by Tappet, Brad Cox. And Vinny, who's your 2?
I have Mandaloun for Brad Cox. Impressive winner, impressive maiden winner. Impressive allowance winner this past weekend at Churchill. Now 2 for 2 lifetime. This one's bred very well, so I have him a little higher than Life is Good, just because I think he can get. I think eventually he'll be able to get more distance.
And Vinny once again proving that he's going off the board for these reaches, because nor the formula or myself had him even in the list, although I did have him in my 25 through 30 range. For number 2, I had Life is Good, the Baffert joint into Mischief. The numbers, pedigree speaks for itself. Training speaks for itself. I think everybody can agree that's a top 5 at least. Now number one, the formula has Life is Good, number one. And again, we haven't seen much. No big wins under the belt. It's somewhat of a gamble take, but I really, if you're going to gamble on a take, that's not a sure shot right now. Man, come on, Life is Good. Vinny, who's your number one?
I have Essential Quality. The horse has done nothing wrong, and each race seems to be getting better. So until somebody knocks him off that pedestal of number one, of him not losing, like, he's probably going to stay my number one for a bit unless they keep him on the bench. But right now, I mean, he won the juvenile pretty easily. I got flattered when Keep Me in Mind came back to win the Kentucky Jockey Club this past weekend. Right now, he seems. I think he's the top of the class at the moment.
And I agree. That's my number one as well. And to me, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Champion is the number one contender going in every season at this point until they're proven otherwise. Innocent until proven guilty, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And Storm the Court was not a great decision last year in the same boat, but I did start my first one with him. I mean, you go win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile as a 2-year-old, you should probably have that spot until proven otherwise, and that's how I feel. Especially like you said, it was an impressive win too. It was an easy win.
Yeah.
Anything else to wrap it up? Any other dark horses or shockers or anything?
No, my list is I feel like my list is more off of what I think these horses can do moving forward, where your guys' list is kind of based off what they already done, which is why I think I had several big name horses that you guys had in your top 25 that I've looked at, but I just either don't think they're gonna try dirt, or like Jackie's Warrior, for example. If that horse proves me wrong, great. I will, I'll have to eat my words with that one. But I don't think that horse is going to win a prep race outside of maybe if it runs in January at one of the mile prep races. I really don't think that horse wants any part of a mile and a 16th or even a mile and an 8th. So I tossed him completely.
No, that's why you're here, and that's why hopefully with updates, like I said, we're gonna go, especially once the season really hypes up, we'll update this list and basically highlight the big movers and shakers, and hopefully have some other guests on with opinions like yours. You're off the board on several of these, which is exactly why you're here. Otherwise, we'd be repeating the same shit over and over. Nobody wants that. So, for the most part, though, I think we had a consensus. All three of us probably only agreed on about 5 or 7, which is pretty cool. So I think we all have opinions that aren't necessarily popular either. So,
and I mean, I would be honest with you. If 5 of my horses from this top 25 list make the gate, I would be shocked. I mean, that's how often. I mean, there's a very good chance the Derby winner hasn't even debuted yet.
I look back at my initial top 25 last year. I think I had 6 that actually made the field, which impressed me. This is a little earlier than we started last year, but I had Authentic at number 14 last year to start the year. Tiz the Law was actually my number 1 right off the get, so I didn't miss bad on him. But
wow,
but there was a lot of horses between the 1 and Authentic at 14 that didn't even end up in the discussion. So
yeah, that's how mine was. I think Authentic was somewhere on mine. Tiz the Law was somewhere on mine, but nobody else was anybody else that ran really wasn't even close to mine.
We all had Maxfield, and there was 2 or 3 others that didn't even end up running a prep. So
yeah. So,
but anyway, that's how we're going to start. Again, it's November 30th, 2020. This is the 2021 Kentucky Derby, quote unquote, way too early to predict anything podcast, but we got to get started somewhere. So from here, we'll document some movers and shakers, and hopefully have some more guests on to talk about this topic, because it's fun to follow all year. Anyway, Vinny, thanks for joining again. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me anytime.
All right, so we're gonna try to throw this up on a video and play the YouTube game a little bit and see how that goes. And yeah, contact us if you want to come on and talk about this or any other topic, or just let us know how we're doing. Call me fat and ugly, whatever you want to do. We'll move along from there, but yeah, we'll have some sort of podcast response or another topic here in the next week or two. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Vinny again, thanks. Peace.